A Saudi prince has allegedly fled the United States after being accused of sexually assaulting one of the workers in his multi-million-dollar mansion in Beverly Hills.
You know, I was here when we did this story, and I bit my tongue in that story because what I was going to say is that guy is gone, and I thought, you know, they're going to get mad at me. No, he's not. What makes you think that he'll somehow won't face justice or whatever? You're presuming that he'll behave in a certain way because he's a Saudi and you wouldn't. He's gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
All right, so let me fill in the blanks with this story. The Saudi prince in question is Majed Abdulaziz Al-Saud, and he allegedly forced one of his workers to perform oral sex on him. And neighbors actually called the police after they saw the worker trying to run away as she was bleeding.
Scaling the wall, the 8-foot wall while bleeding.
Yes, while bleeding. So she was trying to escape,
screaming.
She was in pain. That's why the neighbors called the authorities, and the authorities arrived to the scene. At that point, they had arrested him. Authorities said that when they showed up, there was apparently some sort of party going on, and they arrested him and they charged him. Now, keep in mind, he's in a $37 million Beverly Hills mansion, very, very wealthy man. After he was arrested and detained, his bond was set at $300,000. According to allegations, he paid that bail and then he got out of the country. Now, according to his neighbors, they reportedly spotted the bleeding woman trying to escape his $37 million Beverly Hills compound. Neighbors say he paid the $300,000 and he got out of Dodge. They believe the prince has already fled the country on a private jet, leaving his rented house behind. Now, in the past, when we've covered stories of, you know, Saudi royalty getting away with quite a bit in this country, we mentioned the issue of diplomatic immunity. And in this case, it does not appear that he had diplomatic immunity. So I find that questionable. I find it interesting that he doesn't have diplomatic immunity, but that's what the authorities are saying.
Well,
and
you have
so
to.
we'll
You
see
can't
what
just
happens.
be a foreign national. You have to be engaged. I believe, and you know, growing up in D.C., this was not an infrequent topic of conversation. You know, because every time you'd see a car with diplomatic plates, you'd be like, "Oh, they can run you off the road, and nobody can do anything about it."
Yeah.
You know, but you have to be engaged and work for the government. So, I mean, he can't just be visiting. And then sometimes you could have limited immunity, and it has to be sort of somewhat relevant to your work or while you're on the job or something like that. But a random a sexual assault completely separate from your job, and you're not the ambassador, might not. It would probably be a matter of dispute. His lawyer and the Saudis might have claimed diplomatic immunity, and we might have denied it. But every time that happens, then you were into a diplomatic issue between those two countries.
Right.
So that's a matter that the Saudi Foreign Ministry and the U.S. State Department would hash out or not hash out. But ultimately, that decision, there would be a lot more at stake there. The Saudis would be like, well, if you're not going to give them diplomatic immunity, then we're not going to sell you. We're going to deny Exxon a lease on this field.
Yes.
So, you know, the issues can be big. So whether you can't just say he has diplomatic immunity, that would be a fight in court sometimes. Sometimes it's clear,
Yes,
sometimes it isn't.
But I think it's fair to say that wealthy Saudis get away with quite a bit.
Well, yeah,
You know,
he got on a private jet and left the country.
Yes,
yeah, I mean,
exactly.
even diplomatic immunity or not, he's gone. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he's afraid of going back to Saudi Arabia. Maybe, who knows? Maybe he's in Oman or Kuwait. Maybe he flew to Denver. But my hunch is he went somewhere safe.
Now, after he was arrested and detained, 3 other women came forward, and they're identified as Jane Does in a civil lawsuit against him. All 3 of them have also accused him of sexual assault. So the likelihood of him being extradited to the United States to actually stand trial for what he allegedly did, I think, is slim to none.
I'd honestly have to know more about who he is. And and also what matters then is, what's his relationship to the Saudi royal family? How important is he? Is he a pain in their ass? Right? You know?
Dude's got enough money to live in a $37 million mansion
I got
in
it,
Beverly Hills.
but bear in mind, if he has enemies, so do his enemies. So, yeah, he's wealthy, but his cousins are wealthy too. And if he's a pain in the ass, and if it's beneficial to send him back, and if the State Department wants to get involved, like when you're dealing with a foreign national, it escalates quickly behind what the Beverly Hills what the DA wants to do, what the Beverly Hills Police wants to do, and it'll matter what the United States government, what the State Department wants to do.
Yeah, State Department's not going to want to do anything about this.
But again,
and I'll stand corrected if a report comes out after this indicating that the government's actually going after him. I just find it so hard to believe that he's going to be extradited to face any type of charges. Doesn't matter if there's concrete proof that he straight out raped a woman. I feel like Saudis get away with everything. I'm going to keep it real. I mean, there are ties to what happened to 9/11 or on 9/11 going back to the Saudi government, and we don't do anything about it. We still have very, very close ties to them, and it's because of their wealth, it's because of their oil, and it's because of the fact that they're considered an ally. That's it. They can do whatever they want. Their royalty can come into this country and do whatever they want, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating to know that we antagonize certain Middle Eastern countries, but when it comes to Saudi Arabia, they get to do whatever they want.
Right. Well, I mean, there's certainly, I think, a lot of truth to what you say. I don't know that the Saudis behave more. I don't know that they behave worse than anybody else. This guy did. You add up the number of women, the likelihood that he did it is pretty high, right? Or randomly you found 4 women who were willing to step forward and accuse a Saudi prince. If he didn't do it, seems unlikely. Yeah. So this guy is a serial sexual assaulter and a dangerous guy. But I don't know that that's symptomatic of Saudis. That's symptomatic of
wealth and sure. Entitlement. And
I got it, but that's not owned solely by Saudis. Right?
No, look, I'm not saying that just because he's Saudi, he's more likely to do what he's doing. I think that the sense of entitlement that people like him have is a result of us constantly turning the other way when people in Saudi Arabia do whatever they want and never face any consequences by our government. So that's what
it'll be interesting to see how this case plays out, not just as whether he returns, but about whether anyone puts up a fight on either side.
Right.
Like to the Saudi, do we say yes? Do we say we want him? Do we say we want it and follow through? Do they say absolutely not, or do they say absolutely not? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. He's not one we're going to lay down. So I'll be curious who his friends are.
Yeah.
But he is apparently a serial rapist, so he may not have a lot of friends. I don't know.